Hey, what is going on, guys? It's DK. Back at you with another video here to break down the 8-game NBA main slate on Sunday. Before I get into the video, if you guys are new to the channel, my name's DK. I make daily videos and live stream for NBA and NFL slates on Draftkings. If you're unable to watch these YouTube videos, I also upload an Apple Podcast with a link down below. It's called the DKDFS Show. If you're interested in signing up for premium content, I offer them Patreon.com an esports package, which includes Call of Duty and CSGO, as well as an NBA package. I want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring the show. If you're not familiar with Prize Picks, or this is your first time watching these videos, the idea is you take over/under on fantasy points. So they will post a ton of different players throughout the day with fantasy projections, and these will move. So if you like one, take advantage of it then, because again, these will fluctuate. They will move throughout the day. They have a ton of different sports. You can mix and match sports. So like you can do a couple NBA pair with a couple of PGA. Right, we got Masters going on. We got MLB going on. It's really, really fun, and it's a nice change of pace from Draftkings because you're not playing against anyone, right? You're playing against the house. So if you guys want to try it out, you can sign up and use the code DKDFS. DKDFS, all one word, link down below. You get a 100% match up to $100. So you put $100 in, you get $200 to play with. And yeah, with that out of the way, let's jump into the video. So before we talk about players and their prices for this 8-game slate, we can look back lineup here from Saturday. So Saturday, again, I didn't do a live stream, so I played a little bit lighter. Just played there was the big $20 tournament. Got in the cash here, so this is my final lineup. John Wall, Corey Joseph, DeAndre Bembry, OG Anunoby, Enes Kanter, Steph Curry, THT, and Draymond Green. So looking at the ownership for the lower dollar stuff, I'm like, I might just have to play a lot more of the lower dollar tournaments looking at this ownership. Enes Kanter, with no use off Nurkic, 23% owned. Talon Horton-Tucker. Once we got news that Kuz was out and he was in the starting lineup, became one of the best values of the slate. 14% owned. I'm looking at this ownership, I'm like, man, I just got to start loading up more on the lower dollar stuff. Like, this is crazy ownership. Looking at the rest of my lineup, so used a Houston Golden State mini stack with John Wall, Steph Curry, Draymond Green. John Wall was great at low ownership, almost 50 fantasy points. Steph Curry was really solid, 260 fantasy points. Yes, I admit I have a Draymond Green problem. Was busted again. I just love the peripheral stats, right? I can't get away from that. Like that he has like that triple double upside, but he's just been in a downward spiral recently. It seems like it was weird, right? At the beginning of the year, Draymond Green was like terrible, and then he went on that stretch for like about a month where it seemed like we got back to the old Draymond Green where he had like, 40, 50 fantasy point games like almost every single day. And now he seems to be back to his original self like at the beginning of the year where he's kind of just not great. So, again, I admit I have a Draymond Green problem for sure. But looking at the rest of my lineup, so DeAndre Bembry, that was a pretty clear value once we got news he was starting, and just Toronto was a little bit thin. They did have 10 guys, but again, no Lowry and no Pascal Siakam. So he's Bembry there, even in a blowout he got there. OG Anunoby, he was pretty popular. Again, the blowout hurt there. The blowout hurt. That's really why he didn't get there. And then Corey Joseph for value, I thought was a decent value. He got 21 fantasy points, nothing crazy, but yeah, overall it was a solid night. Again, I didn't play big money, but still cashed in the lower dollar tournaments. So that's nice. But yeah, that's it for the look back, guys. So, all right, let me refresh Bovada, see if we got any more of these games out right now. Okay, so 3 of the 8 games out right now. We have Pelicans and Cavs, a 227 over under. The Pelicans are 6.5 point favorites. Bulls and T-Wolves, 231 over under. The Bulls 4.5 point favorites, and Spurs, Mavs, a 220.5 over under. The Mavs are 6 point favorites. We'll start off in New Orleans and Cleveland. Got to start with Zion, right? And I got to tilt a little bit. Play him in literally one of the best possible spots against Brooklyn. Obviously, the blowout hurt, but right, 33 fantasy points. Then he comes out in probably the worst matchup in the NBA against the Philadelphia 76ers. Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, 2 of the better defenders in the NBA. Goes for almost 70 fantasy points. I'm looking at that, I'm just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, Zion? But yeah, this is, Cleveland. I'm not scared of them defensively, so I think Zion's a pretty solid play at the top. The worry, I guess, is Cleveland's been involved with a bunch of blowouts, so that is, something you got to consider. Brandon Ingram's at 8.3K. If I'm going to spend up for a Pelican, it's just going to be Zion Williamson. So Lonzo out, Hart out, NAW out. Eric Bledsoe at 6'1". Last game he started the point guard. Wasn't great. I think he's kind of just a filler play. If you landed him, it's not terrible, but I'm not really going out of my way to play Eric Bledsoe. Steven Adams, kind of secondary play. Kira Lewis at 4'2", played 21 minutes in his first game back. If he starts out of a little more interest, he comes to the bench. Again, just a fine play, not really a priority for me. It's nice that he does have shooting guard eligibility now. Isaiah Thomas at 3'9", what did he play? I think was he not in the rotation last game? I don't think he played that last game. So obviously can't play IT2. And then where is Najee Marshall? Last 4 games, even with the Pelicans getting healthy, he's played 24, 28, 23, and 23 minutes. You could use him as a dart throw, but it's not something I feel really good about. All right, moving on to Cleveland. So the 2 guards in Sexton and Garland are always in play. Even in blowouts, right, these guys just seem to always get the minutes. They're involved in a blowout and still played 35. Sexton played 35 minutes. Darius Garland played 36, right? So for that reason alone, they're always viable. More secondary plays for me, but they're in play. Kevin Love at 6'5". Again, he's been involved in a bunch of blowouts recently. I'm curious to see what his minutes are going to be like in a close game, right? Because blowout. I don't know. Maybe we get close to 30 minutes from Kevin Love in a close game. So Love is someone that intrigues me in the mid-range just because he's a solid point per guy. And Hardenstein had a big game in the blowout, went for 44 fancy points. When I play him, though, automatic foul trouble right at low ownership. 5'2", it's getting up there to the point where it's a risky play. Taurean Prince at 5'1". I told you, I was I don't think he's going to continue to shoot this well. Shot 3 of 10, only went for 15 fancy points. Again, a little bit too pricey for me. I move on to Milwaukee and Orlando. So we got Giannis Antetokounmpo is doubtful. Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, both probable. They let me down huge at last, or was it 2 slates ago? 6 of 27 last game for Chris Middleton. Can't make that up. But if Giannis is out, I do think Drew and Middleton are both good plays in the mid-range. I'm not super worried. They both had 4 games at last time out when Giannis was out. Normally these are guys, again, they get a massive usage boost when Giannis is out. Normally they go for big games. Last game, kind of an anomaly. I'm not super worried about it, so I'm fine going back to Drew and Middleton. And then Bobby Portis too, even at 6'3". If Bobby Portis starts, I think he's still viable. This last game was a blowout, so that's when they played 25 minutes. He played 35 the previous game. Now, I don't know if we get 35 again, but if we get around 30 minutes from Bobby Portis, assuming he starts, I think he's a pretty solid play in the mid-range. And that's probably it for me. I don't know if we get to anyone else on Milwaukee. I'm moving on to the Orlando Magic. Honestly, not a ton I love here for the Magic. Terrence Ross at 6'4". If you think the Magic can keep this game close, I think he's a guy you can look to for tournaments just because he's going to get a ton of shot attempts up. The center position. So Mo Bamba is currently listed as questionable. We'll have to see. He did come back, right? He left that game against the Pacers, but did come back. So he's been splitting minutes with Wendell Carter Jr. at the 5. If Mo Bamba ends up getting ruled out, then I would like Wendell Carter Jr. more. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye on. Mo Bamba, if he does play, you could use him for value because he's been a solid point per minute guy. Other than that, though, there's just not a ton, right? They're getting healthier. They're extending their rotation, so not much else here in Orlando. Moving on to San Antonio and Dallas. On the San Antonio side, I think DeMar DeRozan looks like a pretty decent play below 8K. Should play mid-30s minutes, a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So DeRozan is interesting. DeJounte Murray's always viable for tournaments. Jakob Poeltl at 6'2" should play around 30 minutes. A guy that can, get you a double-double. I think he's a decent play in the mid-range. Not a ton else I like for the Spurs. Moving on to the Dallas Mavericks, I think Luka Doncic at the top at 11K is a decent spend-up. A guy that is going to play mid-30s minutes, has triple-double upside. We really haven't seen a big Luka game in a while, right? We haven't seen that 70, 80 fantasy point game from Luka. It's still there. Right? We know the upside is there, so I'm fine going to Luka. The thing I like, too, is he's small forward eligible. Small forward usually is a weak position on DraftKings, so That does give a slight boost to Luka just because he has that eligibility. Porzingis viable for tournaments, but not really looking at him in a cash game setting at that price. And the rest of the Mavs, I'm probably not going to get to at their respective prices. Moving on to Toronto and New York. So Siakam back, and it looks like Kyle Lowry will be back too, likely to play. If they are both back, there's not a ton that stands out for me for the Raptors in a tough matchup. Also, Van Fleet, maybe there's a chance he returns. So assuming Lowry and Siakam are both back, I'm probably just going to cross off Toronto. I know Gary Trent, right? This guy's just so frustrating because he's so reliant on the scoring. He's just the example of the boomer bust play. 4 of 15, 2 of 14, and then it comes out and shoots 17 of 19 and goes for 63 fancy points, 44 real life points. It's like, okay, I know like the upset is there. The upset is there, but if Lowry and Siakam are both in, and even maybe if Van Fleet's in, I'm letting others chase that Gary Trent game. I'm staying away from that. So right now at the moment, assuming Lowry and Siakam are in, I'm probably just not going to get to anyone on Toronto. On the New York side, I think Julius Randle's a decent spend up at this price. Again, just because of the minutes, right? He's going to play massive minutes, has triple-double upside. He had a bad shooting game, 4-12, and still won for 49 fancy points. So Randle's always a guy you can look to at the top. But other than that, like, man, there's not a ton else that stands out. Like Derrick Rose is at 5K. They're really splitting the point guard minutes. We'll play about mid-20s minutes. Can he get it done that time? Yeah, but it doesn't really stand out. Just the Knicks in general don't look great. Moving on to the Pacers and the Memphis Grizzlies. So the guy that does stand out to me is Domantas Sabonis at 8-7. Good matchup here against the Grizzlies. Should play mid-30s minutes. A guy, again, has the triple-double upside. So I do like Sabonis. I think he's a safe play with upside at that price. Malcolm Brogdon at 6'6" is a price point thing, right? Now, did only play 28 minutes. I wonder if they kind of just took it easy on his minutes with, his first game back in a bit. But assuming there's no limitations for Brogdon, assuming he plays mid-30s minutes in this one, I think he is a little bit too cheap. So Brogdon and Sabonis are really the two guys I'm looking to. Other than that, there's not a ton else I like McDermott at 4 or 5. Just the minutes, right? He's not playing a ton of minutes. They're really spreading out the minutes for the secondary plays. So I'm probably going to stay away from everyone else on the Pacers. On the Grizzlies, Jonas Valanciunas always in play for tournaments. Always. Should play around 25 to 30 minutes in a close game. If he gets extended, you can see the really big game from JV. So, I do like JV for tournaments. I think John Moran at 7K, he's been very, very up and down. I don't know if I can trust him in a cash game setting, but for GPPs, I'm good with it. Other than that, like Clark is back, so kind of takes slow-mo out of play. Not a ton else I like on Memphis. So let's move on to Chicago and Minnesota. This is a game I think has a ton of upside. Let's start with the top two stars here, Vooch and LaVine. Like both in a great matchup against Minnesota. Vooch should play mid-30s minutes. I think he's a good play. And Zach LaVine, we know, right, had the massive game last game, went for 70 fancy points. Don't expect 70 again. Is a revenge game, though, and a very up-tempo matchup. So, again, I'm not expecting 70, but I still think LaVine's a good play. So LaVine, Vucevic, I think two of the better spend-ups at the slate. Sandro Anthony's fine in the mid-range, should play about 30 minutes. Again, doesn't stand out as an amazing play if you landed him, though. That's all right. Kobe White off the bench, I think we get, mid to high 20s minutes. I think he's a viable value play. We've seen a lot more lineups with him and Sato, right? They've been playing together more. 31, 27, and 29 minutes the last 3 games for Kobe White. So, I think he's someone we could look to for value. All right, moving on to Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns, even at 10-8, I think is a good spend up because I like the matchup here. Again, this game I think is probably my favorite game to stack if I'm going to stack. He's playing massive minutes in close games, should play 35 plus, so do like Cat at the top. I think Anthony Edwards is a fine tournament play at 7-6, just because, again, he's not afraid to shoot the ball a ton, right? Did only shoot the ball, I guess, 12 times last game, but he's a guy that can go out and get you 20 plus shot attempts. So Edwards in play for tournaments. D'Lo, we got to monitor if he's going to be on a minutes limit. This is pretty big. If there is no minutes limit for D'Angelo Russell, I think he's actually one of the better plays of the slate. If he's going to continue to be limited to like 25 minutes, then he's kind of more of a secondary play. So this is pretty big, the status of D'Lo and whether or not he's still on a minutes limit. Other than that, I think McDaniels at 4-6 because the minutes, right? He should play 35 plus if he can stay out of foul trouble. Not a phenomenal point per minute guy, but a guy that can get you some rebounds, some assists, and score the ball. So I think he's a fair value play. All right, 2 games left here. So Miami and Portland. On the Miami side, Oladipo out, Hero questionable. That is pretty big. If they're both, if Hero's out too, I think Jimmy, Bam at the top because the matchup both look like pretty safe plays. Again, Jimmy, triple-double upside, great matchup. Bam Adebayo does seem a little bit too cheap. So those two at the top I like because of the the matchup here. And then if Hero is out, I'm curious to see what Miami does with the starting lineup. I know Nunn's been out of the rotation, but he could move into the starting lineup. We'll see if he does start. Obviously, would have some interest there. Goran Dragic at 4.7. The Mets haven't been great on him, like hovering around the low to mid-20s. Both Oladipo out, maybe Hero out. He could get extended. So do have some interest there in Dragic, Hero, or Dragic and Nunn, if Hero's out too. So that's something we'll have to monitor. And then even Trevor Ariza, like he'll play mid-20s minutes. Not a great point per minute guy, but hey, he's at 3.6, and it's a good matchup. All right, moving on to Portland. So the top two guards in Lillard and CJ. Don't love the matchups, more secondary plays. Cantor was the guy I was all over today, but that was because Nurkic was out. Nurkic is now in. So kind of staying away from both centers. The wings, again, not a great matchup. So not a ton I really like on Portland. Final game here is Detroit and the Clippers. Jeremy Grant is currently questionable. To keep an eye on that. Plumlee at 5.5. If the game stays close, he'll probably play 25-ish minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. You could look to him because he's a good point per minute guy. But the Pistons, again, they've been really spreading out the minutes. Like Josh Jackson, Sadiq Bey, both decent plays in the mid-range. Corey Joseph's been playing actually solid minutes, 32, 30. If he continues to start, I think he's a pretty decent value play. Other than that, for the Pistons, Killian Hayes at 3.8 probably gets close to 20 minutes. They just have so many point guards, right? Dennis Smith Jr. will get some run. Corey Joseph really the point guard I want to look to. And then probably, again, value-wise or mid-range, like Sadiq Bey at 5K, 35 and 30 minutes last couple of games. And then Josh Jackson at 5.2. 25 to 30 minutes. So those are the other two guys I probably look to for the Pistons. All right, final team here, the LA Clippers. So what we know is Kawhi Leonard is out. So Paul George, I think, is one of the best plays of this slate. The only risk is blowout, right, against Detroit. Detroit's not a good team. That's the only thing you worry about Paul George. If this game stays close, I really, really like Paul George. And then we know Ibaka's still out. We know Pat Beverly is still out. Honestly, pretty big news here is Rajon Rondo. Like, really big. If Rondo is out, then Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann become really good plays. Reggie Jackson started, played 30 minutes, was in foul trouble, and a blowout too. But we've seen it's Reggie, when a couple of the guys are out from the Clippers, he can have some big games. Also, revenge game narrative, so I do like Reggie Jackson a good amount if there's no Rondo. And then Terrence Mann too, right? Terrence Mann played 36 minutes off the bench. We know he's a solid point per guy, so it's Mann, it's Reggie. That if there's no Rondo, I think are two of the better plays in the slate. Now, Ivica Zubac has been losing minutes, 24, 24, 23. So I don't know if I can get to Zubac because the minutes recently, obviously not going to get to Boogie. The rest is not a ton else I love. I think Kennard, if he starts again, is a decent value play. Played 25 minutes, a little bit reliant in the scoring. But if he starts again, I think he's someone we could look to for value. All right, so that is going to do it for the video today, guys. If you have been enjoying the content so far, I would really appreciate if you leave a like button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so you know when I upload videos, live. Again, I will be doing a YouTube live stream tomorrow, so make sure to check it out. Thanks again. Have a good night, guys, and I'll see you all tomorrow in the live stream.